We are now entering the holiday season, which for nutrition clients means potentially putting their plans on the back burner as they navigate family meals, treats, and parties. Today, I'll show you 3 simple strategies to keep your nutrition clients on track so they can get results through the holidays and you can continue to grow your nutrition coaching business. Starting with strategy number 1, the flex day. For many clients, giving them complete days off without much structure can be a recipe for disaster, especially when you've been prescribing macro and calorie targets and it's working well. So when the holidays hit and there's more of an opportunity to eat out and attend parties, what do you do as a coach to find a plan that works? Food and drinks are social and they're fun and they're part of our culture, so they can and shouldn't be avoided. But here's one strategy that balances the best of both worlds. Enter the flex day. The flex day is a magic tool that I use to keep my clients on track. The cliff notes for the flex day are: your client is tracking for the majority of the day to reduce calorie targets, but higher relative protein targets so they can create a calorie buffer for the rest of the day. What this looks like is 50 to 60% of their normal total calorie target, but a bit more total protein than you would eat at that time, closer to 60 to 70% of your normal target. They're gonna track like this till around 3 to 4 p.m. Then the client can take the night off to eat like a normal person, without doing much tracking, just using mindful eating practices, which we're gonna touch on in the next strategy. This is ideal for family meals or holiday parties where the client really shouldn't need to track or guesstimate. What this does do is give the client a little bit of structure so the entire day isn't a wash, but still allows them to get away from the objective aspects of food. This works best for a client having a hard time navigating food without structure. Here's how a flex day looks in practice. So if a client's normal food levels look like this: 2,500 calories, 180 grams of protein, 300 grams of carbohydrates, and 60 grams of fat, then the flex day would look like this, tracking to around 1,500 calories until 3 or 4 p.m. to 120 grams of protein, 140 grams of carbohydrate, and 40 grams of fat. Plus this untracked meal, including no restrictions and probably some drinks as well. In my experience, after routinely using flex days in my coaching practice, the easiest way to schedule this in is during the nighttime meal, but you could do it for breakfast or lunch and work around that as well. Now, I do want to point out that there's a big difference between the flex day and a cheat meal. A cheat meal reinforces the idea that there's some foods that you shouldn't eat or are off limits. But in reality, there are no good or bad foods, just better or worse choices within the context of your goals and the situation you find yourself in. But in comparison, working in a flex day still gives you some control, while you can still eat like everyone else without labeling anything as bad. And although we are discussing the holidays here, this is still a strategy I've been able to use at different social events like birthday parties and weddings. And that's the flex day, but I also wanted to add some context to what happens when you're not tracking what you eat. With our next strategy, number 2, mindful eating practices. Don't get me wrong, my entire nutrition coaching practice is built around the objective side of nutrition. This is what gets a client results, prescribing food and calorie targets towards their goals and getting there with the right action steps and coaching strategy. This gets fantastic results, teaches a client about their food, and grows your business. But, and I say this, but there is always a time and a place. There's a time to track everything you eat and there's a time to not track anything at all. The holidays are a perfect example of a time where you probably don't need to track, obviously within reason. But your clients still have goals and they don't want to just erase all of their progress. So there needs to be some balance, and working in some mindful eating practices works well in this regard. Mindful eating is the practice of being fully aware of the food that you're eating, so you can improve control of your eating habits. The basic tenets of this approach include eating slowly and without distraction, eating when physically hungry and until you're full, and eating for your overall health. But it's also about being able to distinguish between hunger and non-hunger triggers like stress and boredom for your eating, managing guilt and anxiety around food, as well as truly appreciating the food that you're eating. Ideally, you are getting some of your clients to focus on some of these parameters. Even if they are tracking, it doesn't need to be black and white. But in situations when it's hard to or even impossible to track, these mindful eating practices can replace the need to track food objectively, which is perfect for the holidays, especially for just a few days. And even as we work through the coaching life cycle with a client and we prepare them to be less reliant on tracking, working on mindful eating practices is important. Here's one of my favorite exercises to do this. What would happen if you had no access to your food tracking app for the day? How would you eat? This is a great chance to practice mindful eating practices. Ideally, you'd eat really similarly with just less attachment to the numbers. When we go into a period of time where it's not realistic for a client to track, here are some of the parameters I set for them. Try to prioritize protein between 20 and 30 grams every time you eat. Eat a serving of fruit and or vegetable at each meal. Stay active and try to eat slowly until 80% full. Do not be restrictive, and when possible, do not eat alone. Try to eat with friends and family and make it social. And if you want to get even more specific with these parameters, you can set a sliding scale and get your clients to rate how they did for each of them on a daily basis. These food scales give your nutrition clients the structure to be able to schedule in off days from tracking without much impact on the results. This awareness and being mindful around your food really helps. Additionally, it's important to have conversations around non-negotiables because this will inform everyone around what the client truly values and what they want to do with their food choices and their actions during a busy holiday season. And this also gives you an idea of what they're willing to compromise to reach their goals. For example, maybe they have a specific family dinner they really enjoy, they love the food there, and they think about it all year. Okay, so we're not going to track at that one. But maybe they always find themselves during this period of time eating candy canes and they don't even like them. Maybe this is something we can be aware of and give up. This is setting your non-negotiables, and they are part of a well-balanced nutrition plan that is flexible but still gets results. Now, I did want to say, if you're new to my channel and finding a lot of value in this nutrition coaching advice, make sure you hit that subscribe button so you don't miss a thing. But back to the video here. What if a client needs a little bit more structure? Here's how you navigate that. With strategy number 3, scheduled refeeds. Depending on what your client needs to achieve, you can provide them with more structure. For example, if they have a big competition right after the holidays, which doesn't happen typically, but it could happen, maybe we need to provide them with more structure to keep them on the straight and narrow. Here's what you do. You provide them with more food, but in a structured way. And refeeds are the right answer here. Refeeds are typically higher carb days that are used in prolonged calorie deficits to help restore glycogen levels, which can help with the mental and physical aspects of dieting. For a limited period, we ramp up the carbohydrate intake while keeping the other macronutrients similar, or in some cases, maybe even bringing down the protein a touch because we don't need it to manage appetite. Most clients will do this by eating their normal carb choices in higher amounts, so more fruit and starch, but other clients will be able to work in some more treat-based foods, or things they wouldn't typically eat, like bagels and pasta. Not that there's anything wrong with bagels or pasta, but just not everyone has the budget. In most traditional nutrition coaching scenarios, we only use refeeds with people that are already typically pretty lean, using around 1 refeed per week for men that are under 10% body fat and women that are under 15% body fat, potentially 1 refeed every other week for men that are under 20% body fat and women that are under 25% body fat, with refeeds being completely situational for anyone that's above that. In most cases, new clients typically don't need refeeds at all, regardless of how lean they are, especially if they're not really that consistent yet. If clients feel like they need more structure than flex days and some of the mindful eating strategies during the holidays, I would encourage you to use refeeds. And here's how we would set them up. Say someone's normal food level is around 2,500 calories, 180 grams of protein, 300 grams of carbs, and 60 grams of fat. We're gonna add in anywhere between 25 to 50% more carbohydrate. For many clients, this is around 50 to 200 grams of total carbohydrate more for that day. So the refeed calories would look like this: around 3,000 total calories, 170 grams of protein, around 400 grams of carbohydrate, and around 60 grams of fat. Sometimes we can add in a little bit more fat depending on someone's food choices. Refeeds can be really helpful for a client that wants structure and control, but still needs a little bit of a break. Now keep in mind, for all of these strategies, flex days, mindful eating, and off days, as well as refeeds, it's totally normal for the scale weight to rise. This has a lot more to do with actual water retention due to more sodium and carbohydrate, not actually gaining tissue. You need to make your clients aware of this, and if it does become problematic to the point where they don't actually want to take them because of it, encourage them to stop weighing themselves for a few days after. Now keep in mind, I would suggest that most of your clients don't track at all during the true holidays. Christmas, Christmas Eve, Thanksgiving, Boxing Day. Food is social, fun, and cultural and should be enjoyed. There is no need to be scared of it, but it also doesn't mean that they need to write off 6 weeks completely anyway. There is no need to be scared of it, but it also doesn't mean that they need to completely write off 6 weeks either. So I hope these strategies help. Now, if you loved all of those tips, you're really gonna love this video I've linked up right here. Now that you have a better understanding of how to help your clients manage and navigate the holidays, learn how to get them next level results regardless of the season. So make sure to check it out now, and I'll see you in the next video.